Vietnam has some of the most beautiful and exciting roads. It also has some of the craziest roads, the most dangerous roads. But is it worth it for these views, for this skyline, for these beaches, for these hills? Well, with the factory closed for 2 weeks, it's time to find out. I have 2 weeks to head north, from Ho Chi Minh all the way up to Quaint. Let's go and enjoy this trip, because honestly, I've been planning this for ages and I hope it's the trip of a lifetime. So it's 6:30 in the morning. You can probably hear my chicken farm. I have, Jana, hello. Yep, got up super early, gonna head off. I've got about a 6-hour drive with me. And I'm heading to a place called Mui Ne, which is a beach resort for the night. Different crash helmet, it's slightly safer and modular. And yeah, got a long drive seeing rural Vietnam, so I'm going to take you all along with me. This should be epic. I've been looking forward to this since the day I got to Vietnam, so let's head off now. So waypoint 1 today is the Cat Lai Ferry. It's actually a back road out of Saigon. This is the factory turn, so where I am there, that's, yep, say hello to everyone who goes on to Tet holiday tomorrow. But not I today, not I. I am off to the ferry terminal to make sure that I'm actually going to the right bloody place. There's a lot of people going onto the main road. I would try and do that without getting hit by a truck. Oh, and like that line in The Hobbit, this is the furthest I've ever been from the Shire, Mr. Baggins. It is. It's the furthest I've ever been from the Shire. It's not, but this is past my normal route. So yeah. So the Cat Lai Ferry, here we come. I need to get some money out for the guy. The Cat Lai Ferry is a ferry that crosses the Saigon River. It costs very, very little, 4,000 dong to cross, but it really is the demarcation between the city and the start of the countryside. There is a lot of urban sprawl that goes on outside of Ho Chi Minh, and probably for 20 to 30 kilometers after you leave the center of the city, you are still in a sprawling environment. But the demarcation between the Cat Lai Ferry and central Saigon is broken once you leave. So, crossing the ferry. Crazy procedures here. You pay 4,000 dong, you then drive 2 meters forward or 5 meters further forward and give the guy the ticket and then let you on. Whether or not they could find a simpler way of doing this is probably not beyond the wit of man. But nonetheless, it's fair to say that Vietnamese bureaucracy is at its finest at this point, so the guy has to get off his Candy Crush on his phone. I have to give him the ticket that I was given 5 seconds before, and then I am free to embark upon the ferry. The ferry runs 24 hours a day, and it is used by cars and motorbikes aside. But yes, for me, 6 o'clock in the morning, just before the heat starts to get into the sky, I am on the Cat Lai Ferry, and also before rush hour, because if you leave and try and get anywhere in Saigon between about 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, it is utter chaos. If you have seen me trying to get to the factory during rush hour, it is an absolute bun fight. So I'm pretty glad that about 6:30 in the morning, just as the sun comes up, I'm on the ferry and all of a sudden able to actually consider this trip started, because let's just face facts. You have all seen the inner part of Saigon. Now it's time to show you the countryside, and honestly there is so much to show you. Just getting onto this ramp, boarding this ferry is the start of that journey. But after this, I'm going to show you breakfast, because every good journey starts with a good breakfast. Come on, cupcake. Now I have some time to collect my thoughts, get my shit straight. Oh yeah, your man over there is having his breakfast, and I'm just going to enjoy the trip on the ferry. I'll scooch up a little bit.
So first up of the morning, 90 minutes into my trip. There's my trusty stick. Just look by the side of the road, because really, after about 2 hours, my ass gets tired. And In the distance I can see a cloud of smoke. A cloud of smoke normally means com tam. Barbecued pork chops, rice, pickled vegetables, washed down with café sur da. This is my breakfast. It is the breakfast of the champions for motorbike riders. I've got about 6 hours to run, but I will finish my breakfast and I'll get back to you when I'm on the road.
And so with the smoky goodness of Com Tam inside me, it is time to navigate the herds of cows that cross the roads, get into single lane traffic, out into the fields, the paddy fields, the fruit fields. It is a glorious, glorious hot day and an absolute joy to be on this motorbike heading towards the coast. The road weaves and winds around sand dunes and into what can only be described as one of the longest, most beautiful stretches of beach I have ever seen. It is truly phenomenal to be here. The only thing that's bugging me a little bit is the intense heat, but a quick stop, removing the leather jacket, and a quick photo op, and I am almost ready to be back on my way. So this is the reason. Miles of unspoilt beaches, fishermen in coracles doing their morning fishing. It is just all so very, very idyllic here, and I'm privileged enough to be able to do it on a motorbike. So this is going to be my day, from the beach to the mountains. So as I drive up the coast road, what becomes apparent is just the amount of abandoned, half-finished projects. There are miles upon miles of just resorts, brand new resorts that were being built, resorts that have just opened, and there is literally no one here. The entire place is abandoned, for want of a better word. It's nuts. It's as if like everyone got up and went home and left. I've literally been traveling for 30 minutes on this road. Everything's abandoned. Have a look for yourselves. I mean, look over here. Hundreds of holiday villas, empty. Restaurants on this side, empty, 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 empty. Everything's closed. Everything. And it's not just because of Ted. It's like that film 28 Days Later, when people wake up and everyone's left. This is kind of how I feel. I'm not quite sure. They must have got to just about opening and then everything closed. There is no one here apart from some people doing maintenance. I remember there was a film I used to watch when I was a kid, set in space, where some guy was just whizzing around with a couple of little robots on some spaceship. And he had no one for company. This is kind of what it feels like here. There's no one here. Insane. But 2 hours to go. 2 hours of beautiful winding coast road to play with. Nice. And for those of you who have all been asking about the bike, it is a Yamaha XSR. This is the Indonesian import and made for the Asian market, so a whopping 155cc. And so after 4 to 5 hours on the road, we approach Mui Ne. Now, there's not a lot to say about Mui Ne, and I have said that I'm not interested in what I am going to see in the towns. This is just for the journey in between. But for those of you who want to know about Mui Ne, well, it's dead to the world. And it's full of Russians. It is almost 100% Russian restaurants, Russian tourists. There are very few Vietnamese there. So if you are interested in a place that is dead and full of Russians, well, try Mui Ne. If you're interested in a place that's full of dead Russians, well, try Crimea. Boom, boom. And so day 2 of my trip dawns bright and early, another 6 a.m. start. But it clearly is becoming apparent that today is going to be a very, very hot day. So time to stop and take some precautions. So, I didn't learn my lesson yesterday. Despite the fact that I did this the last time I went on a motorbike trip and had my arms exposed, I burnt myself. So, whoosh. Arm protection. Imperative if you are driving around here and at 7:30 in the morning it is crazy hot, it is going to be a crazy hot day today, and in this case best thing I can do, make sure I put good arm protection. So there we are. And finally, after an hour on the road and a couple more cows, we hit the mountain trails. The climb is steep and bendy. It is everything you could wish to want from a motorbike climb. It is a little bit fraught, and you do have to be super wary of potholes, oncoming coaches coming up behind you. But honestly, for any of you who ride bikes, this is an absolute joy of a trail. I was literally grinning from ear to ear when I wasn't scared for my own life. Something I all believe, if you ever come to Vietnam and you want to take a tour, this is what you should be doing. It is so much fun and beautiful to see. The scenery is absolutely stunning, and then when you get to the top of the hill, there's a coffee shop where someone will greet you, give you ice cold drinks, look after your sore, aching limbs before you head back on the road. What more could you want from life? This stop off in the middle of nowhere. Coconut milk, Vietnamese coffee. It's beautiful, and a view to absolutely die for. And with coffee out the way and back on the bike, it is just one more hill climb, 1 more kilometer until we hit the peak. And getting off the bike and looking at this view is worth all the hardship, all the arseache, and all the danger. Take a look yourselves. What can I say? The view from up here is spectacular. Completely amazing. Beautiful, spectacular, lots of words. Yeah. But a cautionary tale for all those wannabe easy riders who want to zip down these mountains at speed. There is a price to pay, and that price can be very, very heavy. These roads are poorly maintained, and there are no warnings as to where the potholes are and when they are. They just happen to pop up in front of you, and if you're lucky, you can avoid them. 2 hours out of Dalat. And this road is dangerous as hell. Like literally, there's like such incredibly deep potholes, but you just don't see them until they're on top of you. So a couple of times I've been like, shit, like potholes, slam the brakes on, and yeah. So I need to be very, very careful driving this next couple of miles, because it looks like really good tarmac. It's not like the Australian roads, which are generally like the entire distance. But this is like, yeah, look, another one, bang. So yeah, every now and then you just get this. So your front wheel dips in, and then you're like, okay. But as always with this part of the world, it is incredibly beautiful. And as for scenery, the highlands of Vietnam are famous for coffee and tea plantations, and they are all over the mountains throughout the countryside. They are truly stunning. And when you are not looking at coffee plantations, there are lakes, there is natural beauty. There is just so much to see in the run up to getting into Dalat, and obviously as you leave Dalat on the mountain road down. As for Dalat itself, well, Dalat is built around a lake and is renowned in Vietnam as the place that young Vietnamese
Vietnamese couples go to enjoy what can only be described as a romantic Vietnamese break. So if parading round in candy-coloured coaches is your thing, then Dalat may be the place for you. I, however, was unimpressed, but that's just me. I want to see the countryside. And so in next week's episode, we will be taking the trip down the mountain to Dalat, looking at some amazing scenery. And unfortunately, some horrific problems that occur when people don't pay attention to the roads and drive dangerously. But that's all in next week's episode. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. And if you look forward to seeing Nha Trang, Quy Nhon in all its beauty, I will see you all in the next episode, traveling around Vietnam on a motorbike. Take care.